Hello everyone, and welcome to lesson number 5 in the Astral Chain Combat series. Before we begin, let me ask you something. Do you ever get sick of seeing this happen? Well, in this episode, I'm going to share some survival tips and tricks that will help you minimize how often you see that happen. There's a lot to cover here, so I'm going to blaze through this. Let's start with the first category of strategies. Damage prevention. First, evasion. When it comes to dodging attacks, a normal dodge is actually not your best option. It's great for setting up a sync attack if you get a perfect dodge, yes. But if you're being mobbed, chances are you're going to get hit by any number of follow-up attacks by other chimeras, and that includes when you're executing the sync attack. No, if pure evasion is your goal, then you want to use the Beast Legion's Ride ability, which is activated using the L button. While riding the Legion, you basically become one permanent iframe. The Beast will automatically dodge any incoming attacks without you needing to press anything. Use this to get out of a sticky situation, like when you're getting mobbed and you just need to retreat and regroup. This one is absolutely a lifesaver. And pro tip, activate Beast Ride when the Legion is dismissed. That way it will pop up right underneath you and you won't have to wait for it to dash over. That split second can make all the difference. Second, defense. Once you obtain the Axe Legion, you'll gain access to two great defensive abilities. The Blue Shield Legion skill, which we covered in depth in lesson number 4, and the Axe Legion's Force Field ability, or at least that's what I call it, which again is triggered by pressing the L button. I'll focus on the Force Field since we've already covered Blue Shield. Once you activate this ability, the Axe Legion will stand next to you and create a force field around both of you, blocking incoming attacks. If you time it exactly before an attack will land, the attack will be blocked without consuming any of the limiter gauge. Otherwise, it will deplete the gauge slightly. This is great for blocking attacks when you are otherwise incapacitated, like when you have tripped, or when you are stunned. That way, the incoming attacks will be blocked in spite of your inability to move. This can be a huge lifesaver in desperate moments, so get comfortable with using this often. Finally, the intentional use of what we will call cinematic attacks. A brief explanation here. There are some sync attacks that, when triggered, will result in the camera moving about the character dynamically. When this happens, you are granted iframes for the duration of the attack. This means that if you memorize which sync attacks are cinematic, you can intentionally use them for counterattacks without the danger of getting hit while it is being executed. 3 great examples are the Armed Legion's Perfect Dodge, the Beast Legion's Perfect Dodge, and the Arrow Legion's Perfect Call. All of these are excellent cinematic attacks that are perfect for safe counterattacks. Now, you may be asking, how do I tell when the camera is quote-unquote moving dynamically enough for it to count as a cinematic attack? There's actually a surefire way to tell. When a cinematic attack triggers, everything on the HUD except your health bar will disappear, and will not reappear again until the attack animation ends. So use that to help you identify your cinematic attacks. I'm not going to cover all of the cinematic attacks in the game. I'll leave that to you to discover. But I will say one thing. It's best to use cinematic attacks that come out right at the start of a sync, because the longer it takes to start, the more vulnerable you are. An example of a bad cinematic attack is the Sword Legion's sync attack after a spin attack command. There is a cinematic attack at the very end of the combo. It's so late in the combo that it cannot be used very intentionally. Chances are you'll have already gotten hit long before you get that far in the combo. So focus on the cinematic attacks that happen at the very start of a sync attack. Again, the Arm's Perfect Dodge sync, the Beast's Perfect Dodge sync, and the Arrow's Perfect Call sync are great examples of this. Now, moving on to the next survival skill category, healing. It may surprise you, but I'm not going to start with items here. Instead, I'm going to start with the finish off mechanic. In short, when you're about to deal the final blow to a chimera, there will be a brief moment when the action slows, and the game will give you a prompt to finish off the enemy with a press of the A button. Here's why this is a healing strategy. Every time you finish off a Chimera this way, your health bar will be 100% refilled. Yes, 100%. Every time. So, during normal battles, this should absolutely be your primary healing strategy. Get very comfortable with responding to the finish off prompt, and you'll greatly increase your survivability. Now we'll talk about items. Despite the superiority of the finish off move for healing, there are times when you can't rely on it, notably inside boss battles. So items still have their place. But here's a question for you. Ever feel like there are times when the action is too hot for you to be able to use an item before you get hit? There's an exploit for that. Just open the menu. Yes, you can open the menu in the middle of a heated battle. From there, just go into your item menu and voila! You can calmly and safely use as many items as you wish. There's a paradigm shift for you. So, if there's ever a time when the quick item menu, mapped to the X button, doesn't feel safe enough due to enemy pressure, just hitch a quick ride on the beast to get somewhere safe, and then pop open the menu and heal up as much as you like. Boom! You're welcome. And for the final survival strategy, crowd control. This was covered rather effectively in Lesson Number 4, so I'll not retread ground, other than to say that you should get very comfortable using your Legion skills to gain control when you're faced with a large amount of enemies. Your best skills here are Slow Shot, Gravity Storm, and Howl. And don't forget, Chain Binding can be helpful too. Learn to use these well, and you'll find yourself staying alive a lot more often. One final brief note. Be smart with your limiter gauge management. You're a sitting duck if you let it get to 0, because then you cannot call your legions to you until it fills all the way back up. Remember how you go from hero to 0 without your legions? Yeah. So my final note here is, be smart with how often you have your legions out. They're what make you powerful, yes, but if you don't watch that limiter gauge, you'll be toast. So make sure you keep a good eye on the gauge, and if it's getting low, make sure you either dismiss your legion long enough to allow it to refill, or use an item to fill it back up. You won't get anywhere in this game if you don't learn smart limiter gauge management, so make sure you get real good at this. And that's everything I'll be covering for this episode. Master these skills, and you'll be able to take on the toughest battles and live to tell the tale much more frequently. And this doesn't cover every possible strategy, just what I consider to be the most important and fundamental ones. So, you know what to do now. Go practice what we've discussed and see if you can add to your survival skills. If you enjoy this content, please like and subscribe to our channel. There's a lot more where that comes from. And until next time, keep it nerdy!